Hey, I'm Mike TV of the band Get Set Go, and today's episode is about friendship and how each friend we have, that relationship is sort of like a houseplant. Some friendships are hardier than others, some are a little more fragile and require more tending, others you can ignore for months or years, but each has needs unique to them, and if a friendship is ignored, then like a plant, it withers and eventually dies. Which, given enough time, of course, all things die. Even the stars in the sky will someday wink out. In fact, looking into the sky, sometimes what we're seeing is the epitaph of a star. We're seeing its dying light. It's already dead. So given that eventually all things die, how do we cherish the friends and moments that matter? Let's take the Wayback Machine to 1992, and I'm living in Los Angeles, having just moved there from Palm Desert. And I'm still pretty new to the whole development executive thing, having just been newly christened as a manager of development for Universal Cartoon Studios. And I am pretty lonely. Because even though I'm rooming with my high school buddy Charlie in Pasadena, I don't really have that many friends in LA. So during the day, Charlie's off at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and then doing all sorts of extracurricular stuff with his classmates in the evening. And I often find myself struggling to find ways to bridge the hours between getting home from work in the evenings and heading out to work in the mornings. I go to poetry slams, I walk through Old Town, I buy books and read them at this really wonderful little coffee shop called the E-Bar that has a hidden main entrance found only by circumnavigating down an alley. And sometimes I'll catch an art house movie at the Laemmle's Theater, or I'll go to Hollywood for a coffee at a sci-fi coffee bar called Nova Express, or I'll drive along Mulholland, the east-west spine of the city, so I can look at the lights on both sides of LA, the city and the valley. But mostly my evenings are filled with isolation. Long, ponderous hours of just stewing in my own thoughts. And there's something about being alone that clings to you like a bad smell. And the more time you spend alone, the deeper that bad smell saturates into you. And then eventually it starts to affect other people. Like you'll be waiting to order lunch at a sandwich counter that doesn't have an actual line, and 3 or 4 people that most definitely approach the counter after you will get chosen to give their orders before you because the people behind the counter just don't register your presence. Or you'll be trying to get someone's attention and they just ignore you and continue to ignore you until you uncomfortably pitch your voice loud enough to demand their attention, and then they, shocked, look at you like you've lost your mind. And frankly, it sort of feels like you have, because why, just because you're alone and not obtrusive, why does that give license for people to ignore you? But they do. There are all sorts of little encounters that remind you that you are alone and friendless and have somehow managed to slip between the cracks. You're a half person. You're an NPC. You're an extra in someone else's movie. You're window dressing. You're part of the population that fills up the spaces in more important people's lives. Awesome, right? And the more time you spend alone, the stranger your encounters with other people become. Like when people do see and choose to interact with you, they often appear distracted and only give you a fraction of their attention. And when you order things or ask for things, because of course all of your human interaction is at stores or restaurants, almost invariably what you receive is wrong because they weren't giving you their full attention. And only when you call attention to it, when you force them to pay attention, then do they see you. But only to mentally mark you as a pain in the ass. You know, and maybe this is just how I remember these periods of my life, but my most recent intense lonely period occurred in 2018. And it was a large swath of 2018 and most of 2019. So it's not like I'm so removed from these periods of isolation that I'm struggling to remember. And it was during this time in Pasadena in the early 90s, while I was struggling to understand the duties of a development executive during the day and grappling with long hours of loneliness at night, that I got to thinking about my friends. Like, what happened to them? Where did they go? I used to have lots of friends. I mean, I used to roleplay D&D, Cyberpunk, Vampire the Masquerade, all the White Wolf games, Pendragon, Call of Cthulhu, Robotech, Amber the Diceless role-playing game. I mean, we played sometimes 3 or 4 days a week. I was also in a band. I was a skateboarder. I played ice hockey. I mean, what happened to all the people that I used to know? I mean, yes, I moved 90 miles west. But really? So I got to thinking about my friends and friendship. And I realized after spending many months utterly alone, I realized, oh, maybe I need to be the sort of friend that I want my friends to be for me. Like if I wanted them to call me with some frequency, maybe I should probably call them. And if I wanted to spend time with them in person, maybe I should invite them to go do stuff. I should check in, shoot them emails, write them letters. If I wanted friends, I had to be a friend. And as much of a no-brainer as this sounds, this was a really ridiculously radical idea to me. I just never really fully contemplated it. To have great friends, I had to be a great friend, right? Crazy. Who knew?
When you're all alone, strangers grow stranger every day. And when you're on your own, the danger is you'll just stay that way. I don't wanna die alone. I don't wanna die at all. Maybe we could find a little time. Maybe we could simply press rewind.
So I reached out to my old desert friends, many of whom were living in the LA area, and we started having adventures, exploring and making a place for ourselves in our new adopted city. And slowly but surely, LA transformed from a place that felt foreign and alien, and instead became a home. Home, right? Like, there's no place like it.
When you're all alone, like a ghost you move throughout the shops and streets. And when you're on your own, you disappear from everyone you meet. I don't wanna die alone. I don't wanna die at all. Maybe we could find a little time. Maybe we could simply press rewind.
And I reconnected with my tabletop role-playing friends that were living near me, and man, what a blast. So many amazing stories, so many great and memorable characters and campaigns. And then eventually I reconnected with two of my old bandmates, Rick Vegas and Dr. Moto, and we started making music again. And with all these friends, sort of friendship 2.0, it really felt like there was some permanence, that our lives together were gonna stay amazing and full of promise and potential, and life was pretty darn awesome.
When you're all alone, strangers grow stranger every day. And when you're on your own, the danger is you'll just stay that way. I don't wanna die alone. I don't wanna die at all.
Hey, this is Hesitation Cuts Episode 9, the show where I, your dauntless host, battle the forces of heaven and hell to a standstill so that we, you and I, can take a deep breath, share a warm drink of something welcome, and enjoy the ubiquitous and ever-expanding dumpster fires that illuminate the night like reverse stars. In this episode, we discuss friendship and its unwelcome cousin, loneliness, and how both of them, as with all things, eventually shuffle off this mortal coil. So life was doing pretty darn okay. I was hanging out with old friends, my career was taking off, I was writing poetry, I was writing music, I was writing short stories, I was a little dynamo of industry and unbridled self-confidence. I had friends aplenty, and because we were in our 20s, everything was new and exciting and full of possibility. And I was hell-bent on wrestling those possibilities into certainties come hell, high water, or furious armies of the damned. I felt unstoppable. And I know I've touched on this in a previous episode. I just felt like I was destined to do great things. And those great things were only limited by my imagination and where I decided to spend my time. And for the lion's share of my 20s, I really felt that my life was going to be in film and television. I mean, I loved making music, but I was such a poor player, and no amount of practice was improving my chops, or at least that's how it felt. I mean, I would listen to and watch other musicians all the time, and just marvel at what they were doing and how alien it felt compared to what I was capable of. Like, no matter how many times I practiced the major scale or the blues scale, my understanding of the guitar did not improve. Now, yes, of course, I'm certain that a bunch of you are thinking, well, why not talk to people that knew music theory or take guitar classes or buy books? And I say books because some of you may not be aware that the internet in the 90s, of course, was not the internet of today. It took us 20 minutes to download a 3 megabyte MP3. And that was if you had a 28.8 baud modem. A 14.4 baud modem, it could take you an hour. And I know I've talked about our very first radio success in a previous episode with our song Boba Fett, and how that song led to our making friends with the band Otto, and the fellows in Otto introduced us to the band The Holliston Stops, and it was with this group of friends that my life changed forever. Because these were the fellows that I started hanging out with every weekend, and we would just have the most musical, most creatively thrilling weekends of my life. We would get high or drunk and then pass the guitar around, playing our songs and sing along, and just like, it was the first time where I felt like, other than my role-playing games, and back then, the idea of making money off of role-playing seemed an impossibility. But it was the first time I was constantly challenged creatively. Like each weekend we'd often show up with new songs. And the new songs would inspire each of us to write newer songs and better songs. And it was through this regular musical debauch that I was scratching an itch that for me, I didn't realize I needed scratched. Now, one of the things about me that has always been true is I love to build things. I like starting off with one component and then adding more, be it an album or a poetry collection or a book or a rock and roll scene or furnishing a new apartment or playing a computer game or a role-playing game or whatever. I like starting at zero and then diligently building something awesome, something that I can then feel happy about showing off. And it is most thrilling when I can do this in the company of like-minded friends that share my passion and ardor and enthusiasm for the thing that we are all of us building. And so when we started the free Tuesday nights at Mr. T's, for me, it was initially just an opportunity to hang out with my wildly more accomplished musician friends at a venue where we could get drunk and play rock and roll as loud as we wanted. After Joe Teresa, the owner of Mr. T, said, yes, go ahead, we can do this ad infinitum, I was like, okay, man, I got my dream. This is it. I don't need to do anything else. Because, I felt, or rather I thought, no, I knew I wasn't getting better as a musician. I'd been making music in earnest for a few years, and I could still barely play the guitar. So the idea of signing a record deal and pursuing music as a career just seemed like, like my mom had a better chance of getting a deal than I did. So for me, it was just fun. It was just a creative outlet where I had no expectations other than to make music that turned me on, got my blood thumping. I just wrote songs that I love to sing, all in the company of like-minded, ultra-talented, super clever, heartfelt friends. And it's funny because the deeper into this whole music thing I dug, the more it completely owned me and ultimately led to me walking away from the film and TV business, which is crazy because after years of playing guitar, I could still barely play. But why not pursue music? It was full impact, full tilt rock and roll, man. Loud music filled with huge choruses, harmonies out the wazoo, pogoing like I was never gonna stop. It was sex and drugs and wild times all the time. I loved my friends. We had impossible to capture in words amazing times. Together, all of us making music, talking about music, listening to music, just saturating myself in the language and sounds of the closest thing I've ever come to God, to a power I could touch, but I knew was well beyond me. And also, of course, it was just one big permanent blast of dopamine, and I wanted it to never stop.
Let's go, audio! Godspeed to all my pharaoh friends, the ones who saw me to the end, the ones who know I'm hiding in the radio, I'm lost within the stereo. I've gone astral once again, connected by a silver strand, connected to that 60 cycle sound that levitates you up above the ground. Let's go, audio. Let's go, audio. Make me a slave to the radio wave, to the ringing in my ears. Make me a slave to the radio wave, to the ringing do you hear? Farewell to the people I have loved. I'm somewhere up above. I'm somewhere I am lost in a decimal, a number and a decimal. Let's write another song or two. Another song for you. Another song to capture me, enrapture me. Whoa. Let's go. Adio. Let's go. Adio. Make me a slave to the radio wave, to the ringing in my ears. Make me a slave to the radio wave, to the ringing in my ears. What do you hear?
And the bigger the scene grew, the more bands, the more people, the more excitement, the bigger the adventure, the more clout we had in Los Angeles, the bigger my band's actual fan base grew. At some point, I was like, maybe I can do this for a living. Maybe my music has value outside of just my circle of friends, you know? Little did I know that that impulse was going to be a double-edged sword and everyone was going to get cut.
I've got a new sound and it's always changing, and I've got another song for you. I've got a new song, won't you please just listen, 'cause I've got another song for you. Godspeed to all my pharaoh friends, the ones who saw me to the end, the ones who know I'm hiding in the radio, I'm lost within the stereo again.
And so, in the company of now hundreds of musician friends, a lot of us started pursuing record deals in earnest. The band Otto changed their name to Arlo as a tribute to Mr. T's sound guy and signed to Sub Pop. Ozma signed a record deal with Kung Fu Records after opening for Weezer. Go Bitty Go signed with Side One Dummy. The Dolly Rots, Bang Sugar Bang, New Maximum Donkey, The Randys. The list went on and on and on. So many bands, so many friends, all of us putting out records and hitting the road. And now in Los Angeles, we weren't confined to just one venue or two venues. The scene had outgrown Mr. T's Bowl and the Echo and Zen Sushi and the Garage. We were playing the Knitting Factory and the Troubadour and Spaceland and every cool indie joint in town. We were everywhere, and I was out often every single night of the week just to see my friends' bands play. Sometimes I'd hit 2 or 3 venues in a night just to catch everyone playing. But in 2006, after the release of our second record, Ordinary World, things changed. The album had been doing pretty well. I mean, back then, iTunes had an alternative chart, and Ordinary World popped up in their top 100 alternative albums. First, we ranked in the 90s, but then we started climbing the ladder. Also on that same chart was Sufjan Stevens' Illinois and the Arcade Fire's Funeral. And of course, just to gauge the competition, I listened to all these bands and I was blown away. Like, what an amazing collection of bands to be sharing a chart with. Now, of course, they continued to the top of the chart and we stayed in the 50s, you know, but even so, I think we landed there on our very first week and we stayed in the top 100 until we timed out. iTunes actually let a new record stay on the chart for like 8 to 10 weeks and we were there the whole time. So it was no small feat. We did pretty darn well. And our surprise success meant that I needed to shift my focus from the scene and the community and my booking duties and taking care of my friends and my friends' bands to instead focusing primarily on my band. You know, we had a little heat and it was up to me to try to fan it into a flame. You know, maybe an inferno, who knows? And hindsight being 2020, I would have certainly changed the way that I pulled myself out of my booking duties because me booking shows was where most of my socialization actually occurred because I attended all my shows. So I had the Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at Mr. T's that I was responsible for every week, so I was there 3 days a week. I also booked pickup shows or one-offs or the occasional residency for like Spaceland, the Knitting Factory, the Echo, Key Club. I mean, my life was 50-50 split between taking care of the band and taking care of the community. But Get Set Go needed to tour. And we were going to be out 6 weeks at a time, and I knew I couldn't do both. The way we planned on touring, it was going to take my entire attention. We booked morning performances and interviews at college radio stations, in-store performances in the afternoon, and nightclub shows in the evening. There really was no time for doing anything other than getting to the venues, setting up, playing, selling merch, and getting back on the road. I just wasn't going to have time to problem solve all the myriad issues that come up when you're booking 4 to 8 shows a week, particularly when I wasn't even in town. But once I gave up those booking duties, once I deputized friends' bands to take over, once I stopped helping venues shore up their troubled bills by adding or replacing bands to their lineups, without realizing it, I also gave up a lot of incentive for my friends to reach out and stay friendly. Not to suggest that they were mercenaries. They're my friends. And they were genuine friends. But once people stopped calling about booking shows, they also stopped calling, for the most part, to hang out. And of course, in typical Mike TV fashion, I kept myself so busy that I didn't really look up and notice that I was alone until months and months had gone by. And once I realized, oh shit, I've let my friendships languish, I started reaching out to people only to discover that they stopped returning my calls or stopped picking up. And I left voicemails that were returned a week later, and we would make vague plans to get together in the coming weeks. And these were plans that were just never realized. And weeks became months, and suddenly people that felt like they were brothers and sisters were feeling more like estranged friends that eventually grew to feel like acquaintances, and now, over the years, unfortunately, a lot of them feel like strangers. I mean, not that if we ran across each other, we wouldn't be friendly and do a quick catching up. I still love them, but we had built something wonderful together that felt like family, and it felt to me, while we were living through it, that it was going to last forever, that it could have lasted forever if only we kept at it, and we just didn't. But I felt like, it's okay, because I was making important music. I was writing songs that to me felt important, and I thought that my friends would still support me, right? I mean, I'd worked tirelessly for a full decade, building up our community, getting people shows, Every show I booked for any venue other than Mr. T's, I got paid nothing. I just did it out of love, out of service to my friends, out of my love for their music and our community. So I hope that out of love for my music, they would still remain Get Set Go fans and friends. So in those first couple years, I felt like the music I was making justified our estrangement a bit. I thought, and to be honest, I still sort of do, that the music, when they listened to the music, they'd hear why I chose to walk away from my responsibilities to the scene. That they would hear why I opted to stop going out to shows, why I stopped the late nights and the drunken debauches, and instead spent my hours writing and recording songs. But the problem is, I think that once I was out of sight, I was out of mind. And people don't have long memories. We move on. Bands we used to love, bars we used to hang out in, friends that felt like they were forever friends. It turns out they're not, It all changes. I don't even know if most of my friends listen to Ordinary World, much less any album that came after.
I thought I was making a difference. I thought I was contributing. I thought I was doing something special, but I was just phoning it in. I was phoning it in.
And so the friends that used to show up at our shows, the people that used to sing along and jump around and celebrate our music, over time, that crowd just diminished.
Perspective. I thought I was really doing something. I thought that maybe I was making a mark, but I was just phoning it in. I was phoning it in. Shut up, Mike, you've already said too much. Just keep it down, oh, you're so out of touch. Just go back to your room and do what you do, and just leave us be.
Which begs a question, did anybody like my music because of the music, or was it just because I was Mike TV, the fellow that could get their band cool shows at cool venues.
Part of, I don't even wanna win. I just wanted to add just a little, but I was just phoning it in. I was phoning it in. Shut up, Mike, you've already said too much. Just keep it down, oh, you're so out of touch. Just go back to your room and do what you do, and just leave us be.
Not only did a lot of my friendships change when I decided to focus on the band, but my feelings regarding my own music changed. I mean, was my music ever as good as I thought it was? Could I trust my own instincts?
I thought I was making a difference. I thought I was contributing. I thought I was doing something special, but I was just phoning it in. I was phoning it in.
So our crowds diminished. My friends, though they will always be my friends in my heart, were no longer in my life with as much presence. I even tried to use the same approach to friendship I did before. I tried to be the sort of friend I wanted them to be for me. But being in Get Set Go from 2006 to 2008, man, it took a real heavy toll on me. The record label was pretty surprised by the success of Ordinary World. I mean, we all were. But when Selling Out and Going Home, our third record hit stores, the record label really, for whatever reason I can't glean, they hit the brakes on promoting it. I mean, yes, we still toured. Yes, they still helped us secure radio interviews and in-store performances, but they didn't want to spend the money on our publicist, for one, which for me really felt like such a shame, as our publicist had done such a great job of getting us coverage for Ordinary World, both print and online coverage. And also, they didn't want to keep us on the road, which to me, as an indie rock band, felt like a death wound. So I said, hey, let's split the cost. I'll pick up half the cost of touring, and you guys pick up the other half. That way we can go out twice as much for twice as long. And so we toured. And we did pretty well, and thank God for the Grey's Anatomy money, because there was no way I could have paid for it otherwise. But even so, it was a pretty significant blow to my psyche, you know, getting a de facto vote of no confidence from the people that were supposed to be our biggest advocates, our own record label. And when the fourth album came out, they hit the brakes even harder. They throttled our publicity dollars even more. They wanted to keep us on the road even less. And something in me at this time just broke. So I started spending a lot of time online, playing Guild Wars and Dota and League of Legends and eventually World of Warcraft and just a bunch of other stuff. But like, I created a whole new cadre of online friends, and I spent hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours with them over a handful of years. If I wasn't writing or recording or rehearsing music, if I wasn't playing shows or touring, then I was gaming. And those friends, particularly my buddy Steve, kept me afloat at a point where I was feeling intensely despondent to the point of self-harm. I still love music, but man, making music hurt. Playing shows hurt. Playing for 6 people where we used to play for a couple hundred, that killed me. And of course, we still played our hearts out. We still tried to make sure that those 6 people had a wonderful time. But damn, man, my life felt like it was in serious decline, and I was barely a decade into my chosen profession. What fucking horseshit, you know? I felt like from 1996 to 2008, I was a tube of toothpaste that had been discarded. Like everyone just squeezed all they could get out of me. And then when I couldn't give any more, I was just, thrown away.
Erase me. erase my pencil lines, erase me, leave an empty sheet of white. Erase me, wipe me from the page. Erase me, I wanna be erased. Oh, I'm an accident. Oh, I am confusion. Oh, I am mendacity. Oh, I am calamity. Erase me, wipe away my lines. Erase me, I'll disappear in time. Erase me, help me fade away. Erase me, wipe me from the page. Oh, I am failure. Oh, I am surrender. Oh, I am perplexity. Oh, I am a casualty. Erase me, my outline disappears. Erase me, I was never here. Erase me, and wipe away the dust. Erase me, I know you think you must.
And that's my biggest fear, that I'm unlovable, that there's nothing about me that people want to keep around, that I'm only as good as what I can do for people. And so I spend so much of my life trying to make myself valuable, trying to do something that is irreplaceable, but knowing in my heart of hearts that ultimately it's futile.
Erase me, erase my pencil lines. Erase me, leave an empty sheet of white. Erase me, wipe me from the page. Erase me, I wanna be erased.
Now, whether that's true or not, who knows? But this is the mindset I was saddled with when I moved to Austin. Everything in decline, friends growing more distant, my confidence in my music utterly shaken, and I had no idea what to do or how to change it. And I remember my girlfriend at the time, I would talk about my Spotify numbers or my Apple Music numbers, and she would ask with such intense disdain, "Why do you call them fans?" And I would respond with, well, what do you call people that listen to your music that you don't know personally? So I couldn't even command the respect as a musician of the person who purported to love me, and so I just decided to drop out. I decided I was going to get better. I was going to write better songs. I was going to double down on music, put more time in, write more, record more, and hopefully, God willing, damn it, I was going to make something that was undeniable, something that would demonstrate my worth and my value. So I ensconced myself in the studio and I worked and I grew lonelier. The music got better, certainly it did, but my life grew smaller and smaller. Sometimes I would go a full week without leaving my house other than to walk the dog. I didn't call people and they didn't call me, and months would go by. Now, I am still the person I've always been. I cherish and adore my friends. If they ask, I will bend myself into all manner of pretzel shapes to help them tackle whatever it is they need to tackle. But because I've spent so long on the outside looking in, even when I feel relatively secure in a friendship, it feels like it's got a ticking clock. Like every relationship I have comes attached with a ticking clock. And of course, if you take a long enough view, it's certainly true. No one lives forever. Damn it. But this really is not the greatest and healthiest way to live. I get it, and I'm working through it. I still miss my friends. I just don't know how to really strike up a conversation after all these years. Like, won't it feel disingenuous or contrived? I mean, certainly I've had some really wonderful conversations with old friends over the past few months, and they really felt amazing. Like, very little time had passed at all. But again, when do I reach out next? How long is too long? Like, all of my gauges are broken from disuse. And even when I do have these wonderful conversations, it's still really taxing. Like, my brain, I'm carefully disseminating everything that I'm saying, everything I just said, everything they just said. Am I sharing too much? Am I being too honest or not honest enough? Am I oversharing? Am I boring them? Am I talking too much about myself? Am I not asking the right questions? And it's just fucking chaos in my head. Just fucking chaos. So, and because I'm not in a great place, because my life is still a struggle, because it's still fucking hard, I don't want to be a downer, I've been in the same situation more or less for a couple decades now. So I don't want to be that guy, a broken record, a downer and a broken record. Hell no. So I feel like I should just keep my mouth shut, keep working, keep writing, keep making music, keep on keeping on. And when I finally get to a point where, actually, I don't know where that point is, where I feel like it's okay to stop isolating. What do I need to achieve? I mean, is there anything I can do that's going to make me feel comfortable in my own skin? I don't know, but the one thing I can do is remind myself, buck up, kiddo, do good things, be kind, love your people, write your songs, share them. There are people out there listening.
Yes, I know it's hard, it's getting harder all the time. You put your back against the wall and brace yourself and push with all your might. But nothing's moving, nothing's going anywhere. And you shove till you're exhausted, throw your hands up and you cry out in despair. Don't you ever give up. No, don't you let it get its claws into you. Those other motherfuckers, oh, what do they do? So let's crack open a bottle and let us tune up our guitars, and let us sing to the dying of the stars. Sing for the songs that never get heard. Let's set it on fire and watch it burn. Oh, sing with me, make the heavens tremble with the song. 'Cause sooner than later we'll be gone. There's thieves and liars everywhere you turn. They're everywhere. And the more time that you spend with them, the more like them you'll become. You'll learn, you'll become like them. And I hate to say it, but I don't like where we've arrived. I don't like where we've arrived. Where the rich keep getting richer and the poor, well, the poor, they just keep dying. But I'm just a broken songster, writing songs that no one will buy. No one's gonna buy my songs. I have no power to make things right. I've got no power. But here's another song, love, a song I sing with all of my heart. I sing it with all my heart. I know it's tough and it's falling apart. Oh, it's falling apart. Oh, yes, it's falling apart. So let us sing for the songs that never get heard. Let's set it on fire and watch it burn. Oh, sing with me, make the heavens tremble with the song. 'Cause sooner than later we'll be gone. Let us sing away the pain. Let us sing a song that makes it all okay. Let's sing a song. Should I sing a bit too long?
it's work, you're working harder than before.
You're working harder than before.
Some days you gotta work so hard just to keep the things you know are yours.
Just keep the things you know are yours.
And I know there's nothing that we ever seem to do.
There's nothing we can do
that brings you peace of mind, a little calm within a storm inside of you.
the storm inside of you.
But don't you ever give in. No, don't you put your hands up to the sky.
Don't you put your hands
Those
up.
other motherfuckers, do they even try?
Do they even try it all?
So just pass over the bottle and let me tune up your guitar.
Let me tune your guitar.
Let us sing to the dying of the stars.
All the stars, they are dying.
Oh, let us sing for the songs that never get heard. Let's set it on fire and watch it burn. Oh, sing with me, make the heavens tremble with a song. 'Cause sooner than later we'll be gone. So that's the episode. And even though it ended in a weird place, because, you know, I am in a weird place, I hope my friends see this episode as a love letter of sorts to them, because I truly do miss you all very much. And I wish it was easier for me to reach out. But, but what can you do? I'm a miserable, rotten human being. No, but for all the reasons expressed at the end of the episode, it's just hard for me to connect sometimes. But man, I have been truly blessed with wonderful friends. Oh, and I should also include my siblings in this. But, thank you. Thank you all for being in my life. Even if I haven't met you, even if I don't know you, even if you're just listening to what I'm doing now, you are my reason for doing it, And you've made this whole tumult well worth the price of admission. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part. And I look forward to any and all of our future adventures together. So be well, eat your veggies, live forever.